Hello again, everybody. This is Craig Evans of Autism Hangout with another special report. Thank you for tuning in. And I have to admit, today is one of my favorite people to talk to about autism and Asperger's, because this person is not only on the spectrum, this person has this enormous understanding of how Asperger's fit into the world. Now, you already know her and you already love her from her first book, which was 22 Things a Woman Must Know If She's in Love with a Man with Asperger's Syndrome. It was not only a fun read, it was incredibly insightful, but she's taken this Asperger's understanding to the next level, and that would be in the workplace. Now, I've had the good fortune of looking at a preview copy of a book that's being published now by Future Horizons. The title of the book is called Aspergers on the Job, but if you're looking for a book to give to employers, or teachers, or somebody that needs to understand how to work with people on the spectrum, this is the book. So Autism Hangout, I would like to have you welcome, please, author Rudy Simone. Welcome, Rudy.
Hi, Craig.
I know I always have a tendency to kind of overdo these things, but I really get excited about your books. They're great stuff. I want to start off with some of the observations that you made. First off, your books are always extremely well researched. You don't make this stuff up. What you can't find in print that's been done by other researchers, you actually go out and find yourself through your own research. And you have this number here that says 85% of people, Asperger's people that are capable of working and looking for work, are out of work. They can't find jobs. And you took this thing the next step further, and you have already shown through your understanding of all these people with Asperger's that generally they make excellent employees. Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Sure. Well, to address your first point, I did research the book very, very thoroughly because I wanted to back up with as much science, as many statistics, and as much research that has gone before. So if you see the book, you can see that I've consulted just about everybody in the world on the various aspects. And then I interviewed over 70 people worldwide with Asperger's, in addition to all the experts that I contacted. So yes, I did research. Yes, the statistic of unemployment, that's people who are not in full-time employment, is somewhere around 85%. It's very difficult to get an exact number, obviously, because there's a lot of people who aren't diagnosed, and those numbers are going to be shifting all the time. So that was an average I took out of a couple of different statistics, which varied between 75% and 95%. There have been a couple other good books that have come before me on employment with Asperger's. My dogs are misbehaving. Cut it out, guys. And really what it is a lot of the special traits that people with Asperger's have, the focus, the diligence, the honesty, that ability to say the emperor isn't wearing any clothes, and just sort of our lack of maybe superficial concerns means that we stand out from everybody else in the workplace. And we sort of have this inherent belief that if we just work hard and do a good job, that we're going to succeed in life. But actually what we find when we enter the workplace is that social skills sometimes count for more than anything. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't matter if you're working in a mechanic's garage or if you're working in a boardroom or, as an executive somewhere. It doesn't matter what level of education or, what field you're working in. That seems to happen everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Well, a couple of the things that you mentioned early on in the book were that people with Asperger's have a tendency to be so focused that they generally work very hard. They're tireless workers. And oftentimes, since their intelligence is above average, they're very talented, they're very insightful. You've gone on through the first part of this book to talk about a lot of things that characterize people with Asperger's, but I want to segue here into the most helpful, what I felt was the most helpful part of your book. You talk to employers about how they can best work with people with Asperger's syndrome. I'm calling it the care and feeding of somebody with Asperger's. But in addition to talking about the social situations, which you've already mentioned can sometimes be a challenge, things like gossip or bullying or small talk, you also talk about some mechanical things, about how people with Asperger's sometimes have difficulty with lighting or noise or clothing or rituals or routines. Do you want to talk a bit about that? Because that's a big part of this book.
I do. Environmental sensitivity, that's my chair squeaking. Environmental sensitivity sensitivity is a huge part of having Asperger's syndrome, and although it's not part of the criteria yet, I think most experts agree that it should be or possibly will be at some point. Environmental sensitivity affects us all the time, and it starts with our skin. So when I interviewed people, I asked them what were some of the things that they found difficult to deal with in the workplace, and it started with things like clothing, uniform, high-heel shoes, pantyhose, stiff shoes for men, neckties, starched shirts, and then it sort of goes outward from there. Temperature, too much air conditioning, which aggravates a logical Aspergian mind as well as our skin, too much heat, not being able to open our windows, being in an open plan office, which has been proven to be counterproductive to the health and well-being of all workers, not just autistics. We are the ones that notice if something isn't healthy, and nobody likes a complainer. And everyone says, oh, just be quiet and do your job. But it's very hard to concentrate on your work when you're feeling physically very unpleasant.
Okay, what should employers do when an Aspergian comes up to them and says, you know, I've got issues with lighting, I've got issues with noise? What are employees and HR people, how should they respond?
Well, first of all, it's a two-way street, and what I emphasize in the book is it ain't what you say, it's the way that you say it. So I talk at great length to people with Asperger's about learning to present their words, and there's something I use a metaphor. I use a lot of visual metaphors, both in my books and in my seminars, and I say, you know, when you are really direct, it's like shooting an arrow at somebody, and just imagine how that arrow is going to feel when it hits someone. It's going to make them flinch and recoil from your words. So what you want to do is you want to learn how to package your words. When you present your ideas in this nice package, people are more likely to open their door, take this package in, unwrap it, and take that on board. So how you say something is more important than what you're saying, unfortunately, but it's true. And that's what we with Asperger's have to learn.
A bunch of this book, a lot of it is dedicated to the employer and describes the Aspergian personality and why they're such good employees. But there's also a component of this book that is written for people that are on the spectrum. In fact, it advises them how best to take an interview and how to find the job that's right for you.
I'm so sorry.
And the mailman came to your door. If somebody is on the spectrum and they can read your book, could you talk a little bit about the sections of the book that are dedicated to helping them find the right job for them and then get through the interview?
Okay. Yes. First of all, briefly, every chapter is aimed at both the employer and the employee. There's a section called Employers and Advocates in every chapter, and what the employee can do in every chapter. And then at the end of the book, there's a section called Additional Tools for those with AS. And in that section, I created something called the Perfect Job Map. And I was inspired to do this because I actually I was actually inspired by an article that Stephen Shore wrote, and he mentions in the article, and I quoted in the book, that he loves teaching business and he loves studying business, but he doesn't like working in the business field for lots of different reasons. So what you need to do is identify your areas of interest and divide that into teaching, studying, and doing. And under each of those things, you're going to list your triggers, possible things that could put you off that job, or pros in that area that would really inspire you and get you out of bed and get you out of the house every day.
Okay, Rudy, how can people get more information on you and where can they find your book?
My website is www.helpforaspergers.com. Initially, I had printed the book as Working with Asperger's, but as we said, Future Horizons is publishing it in early 2010. It'll be available under the title Aspergers on the Job. But if you want to get an advance copy, they've given me permission to sell off what I had printed. So I've got about 50 copies so available from my website. And the book is it's going to be virtually the same as the one that's coming out next year.
Thank you for stopping by today. Thank you for all you do in helping the rest of the world understand not only what it's like to be somebody on the spectrum, but how they can work successfully with somebody on the spectrum.
Thanks, Craig, and thank you for what you do. Your site is great.
Thank you. And thank you, folks at Autism Hangout. I'll be back again soon with another special report.